guys, Kim here. Welcome to Backyard Blooms. It's been exactly a week since we've been able to groom this cottage garden, so I'm going to turn the camera around and show you my results. This is the cottage garden here. We had some gara that we trimmed up, some tall phlox, butterfly bush over there. We trimmed these petunias just a little bit. They didn't really need a lot of trimming. We got some of these old spent blooms off this Charles Darwin David Austin rose. This potato vine was longer than this, so we trimmed that up on both sides. I'd say it's quite happy in this spot here. My impatiens are a little droopy. Need to water those. We trimmed up the wine and roses Weigela. Trimmed up these jazzberries. This Walkers Low catmint, we trimmed that up. We have a hedge of these all the way down. It's okay to trim these Weigelas here in July, but they will set their flowers for next spring here soon, so choose wisely when you prune your Weigelas. Trim that up. This bubblegum supertunia got a haircut, along with my Nepeta here that's cat's pajamas, David Austin roses, got a trim. I did cut back my clematis that was on this trellis here. I don't know if I made a mistake. You can comment below. I know that this certain clematis only bloomed just once for me, and it may flush back. If you've had any experience with it, please let me know. This is the cottage garden at a distance, and I'm going to throw up a picture of what it looked like when we got started. This garden is 3 years old. You can tell I like symmetry. I like the different colors. I like the different textures. I like 3 plants, 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 small. I like to call this garden on the right side of my outdoor space, my cottage garden. There's Sasha. I don't know why she loves bees. She thinks she could eat them. I need to do some maintenance on this garden today. This is some gara that I need to trim up. There's a few little flowers on it, but if I give this a trim, it'll flush back out with more blooms. Bubblegum petunias are doing okay. I have some tall phlox here with some spent blooms, so I'm going to give that a trim, and then a butterfly bush back there in the back that needs to be trimmed as well. Come around here and show you guys this a little bit better. So if you deadhead these blooms, they'll flush back out with more blooms. Or the side garden on this side here. These roses don't look too bad, but these little leaves are aggravating me, so I'm gonna trim those off. Show you this rose right here. This is a Charles Darwin rose from David Austin. Beginning of the spring, this gives you a big flush and then a few roses here and there, but they're not big bloomers like some of my other David Austin roses. Another bubblegum petunia, baptisia that I replanted here. Thought I made a mistake after replanting that, but I think it is going to survive. And then panning around this way. I'm going to trim up some of these jazzberry petunias. Trim off some of these leaves that got damaged from Japanese beetles. Uncover my salvia back here that you can't even see. I have catmint here. This is a variety called Walkers Low, and it's already has spent blooms. I need to trim it way back. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that need to be trimmed. So we're going to give those a big haircut today so they'll flush back out with blooms. They were gorgeous earlier in the spring. These are big pollinator lovers too. You can see the bees love these as well. I have another planter here that I'm going to trim up these jazzberries right here. Trim those away from this salvia here. You can see this is what it looks like when it starts getting leggy. All this right here. And coming around here, I'm going to trim up this bubblegum. This is one plant from last year, so do not pull up your bubblegums if they're in the ground or even a container. Just trim them way back, and depending on what zone you're in, we're 7B to 8A zone for Charlotte, North Carolina, and mine have came back for at least 2 to 3 years in a row. This is another catmint called Cat's Pajamas. This variety stays more compact and not as large growing as the other Walkers Low. And I've already trimmed it back. And you can see the little blooms on that one as well. They're starting to flush back up. But we need to trim this. So we cut all these old spent blooms off. This plant will flush back out with new blooms. I have another one over there. And this one is another Proven Winners name. A little bit larger than the Cat's Pajamas, but not quite as tall as the Walkers Low. If I can find that name, I'll throw it up on the screen. So that needs to be trimmed. If I could. That's what some of these little blooms look like. Dainty little periwinkle flowers, but I have a lot of spent blooms there. bush is looking good. This one, I think the deer got to, so I need to spray some kind of deer deterrent on this. You can see where it just looks like I pruned it with my pruners, but I did not. You can tell here where they've been eaten. And I don't have as many flowers on this as I do this Rose of Sharon or that Rose of Sharon. I don't know why they like this variety better, but this is what this flower looks like. Here it looks purplish, but it's supposed to be a blue chiffon. I believe this is magenta. This is a dahlia, my first for this year. I'll have to try to find the name of that plant, or that bloom. And this one is the lavender Rose of Sharon. There's a bee in there. This is another dahlia. That's a pretty bloom. I bet the bee was busy in that little flower as well with all that pollen in there. Okay, I can show you guys flowers all day long. You can see some bees in there. Are they gonna get into a little fight? Like, I want to share. Okay, so the whole reason why I was on this side, I need to cut away these spent blooms, deadhead some of these butterfly buddleia bushes here as well. You can see the pollinators like this plant too. Another one over there. This phlox needs to be trimmed up, and then this is an eyesore for me. I've trimmed on this juniper bush several times, so I'm done. I'm just gonna pull it up. Not happy with it. I keep getting dead on it. I have really no idea. I sprayed it for spider mites, blight, fungus. I'm not really sure what's wrong with it. This is another one. This one's looking good. I like how this is star shaped. And this is up on a hill, so when I originally designed this area, I had two different varieties of junipers, one here, one here. That one's doing well. So I have several on this hill here. We live on a 1/4 acre of a lot, and I'd say this garden is about 70 feet long. You can see this one's looking great. This one here. I had 5 of these Cryptomeria trees. 1, 2, had one there. And then 4, 5, but this one that I had in this spot was always diseased, so I replaced it with this Magnolia tree because I had one directly side there in my other flower garden across the yard. This needs to be deadheaded. This tree's looking good. This is Russian sage. This is the second year that I've had this perennial planted in the ground, I thought it would have done a little bit better than that, but I'll take it. It's still pretty. And this plant's doing well, this juniper. This is what that Baptisia would have looked like if I kept it and didn't move it, but I like the texture that this plant gives me. Beautiful flowers in the spring, and then they have these pods that appear on it. They give it a little bit of color, different texture. I'm really loving this plant. And then I have another juniper underneath that tree, and these serendipities, alliums here. I wished I had these in a different place where I could see them more often instead of my neighbor seeing them. And this was looking good. And this is where I stopped on this hill. I'll come down here into my neighbor's yard and just show you what this hill looks like here. So these are tea olives. I wanted to create a little hedge of privacy from my neighbor's window, kitchen window here. So I thought this would provide some privacy for that. I have 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these do flower and smell really nice. I don't have the flowers on there right now, but you can see some new growth right there. And then some cone flowers here. And then hardy hibiscus here. This has been in the ground for the 2nd year, and the 2nd year is the most prettiest. These blooms only last for 1 day, but thankful that they have many more blooms on them. See all the blooms that are about ready to pop out here too. So you're losing a bloom each day. That's what they look like when they are about ready to fall off. But you can tell that there's, for as many that fall off, there is many more blooms that are about ready to pop out. I have some lavender down here. I wished I had more luck with lavender. I would have my whole garden in lavender. But I have had a couple of them not make it on me. I heard they like to be neglected. Magnolia tree here. Crepe myrtle here. It's called a Muskogee. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I don't think I've ever heard anybody pronounce this type of crepe myrtle variety. This is a little gem. And they said, yes, it is safe to plant this tree this close to the house. You can always trim the limbs back that you don't want. And you can see where I trimmed some of the lower limbs off here to make it look more like a tree form instead of a bush. So we got to get these little suckers off too. I'll probably just pull them off like so. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to get the camera set up and work on just trying to clean up this garden a little bit. This is the other side of my bubblegum petunias here. the Snow Princess Elysium there. I don't think the other side gets enough sun. But you can tell this side gets more sun, more blooms. And I have my pretty Sasha over there saying, "What are you doing, Mom?" This was some gladiolas. Is that how you say it? And some tomatoes growing in that little pot there. Some basil. I need to trim these blooms off as well, but the bees are liking these flowers here. Another Russian sage. So this hill is pretty steep, and that's why I planted these junipers to be on this side of the hill. We didn't really want to mow this whole hill. Plus it gave me more room to plant. So this baptisia is a purple color, and the other one that I had that I moved closer so I can see it better was a lemon yellowishy color. So this is the Yoshio Cryptomeria trees, and they'll get quite large. They can get 40 feet tall. To create some privacy from this lake house that people can rent out down there. Plus reduce sound. I like how they're whimsical in the wind. The texture, the color I like. So out of the 5 trees I had only one that didn't do well, that got blight, and I had to remove. My advice, don't wait so long. I thought I could save it, but in the long run, now I have a smaller tree here versus bigger trees there, but this little magnolia will catch up. I have a little Blesk here with some black-eyed Susans growing up on them. I haven't really fleshed out with flowers quite yet. I have a yellow one. Let's see if I can find it. Bloom down here. Sorry. The yellow one. And then the white one is called Lemon Appeal. It's not a very good bud there, but just to show you what the color is. This is the other side of my wine and roses here. Love the color of this butterfly bush. I'll throw the name up for you. Pollinators love these as well. I haven't seen too many butterflies this year. I don't know where they're at. I do love to see butterflies. And I threw some dahlias down. This one hasn't bloomed yet. I'm going to remove that since it's big eyesore. We'll plant something else fun there. We're going to get all this Nepeta back here trimmed up. It's another dahlia. dahlias. This one's about ready to make its debut. This one's a dinner plate dahlia, so I have to have it staked. So I just turned a potato cage upside down and used it as support. You can see right here. And I have some clematis that already went out of bloom. Climbing rose that's not bloomed yet, or out of bloom. This is Olivia Austin rose, and again the deer have devoured all my buds off that, so I'm trying to spray some deer deterrent off it so I can get them to rebloom. And then more dahlias. I wished I'd marked what dahlia was which, but I did have a lot of them that did not come up. So I'll just try to find the variety as I take pictures of them. So I have 3 rows of Sharons, all 3 different colors. You can use this plant also as a hedge. It'll get to 12 feet tall, but it does lose its leaves in the wintertime, so you're not going to have much of a privacy from this plant in the wintertime. I have a hydrangea here that got ate by the deer as well, so that's why you see no blooms on that one. I'm trying to spray that one as well. This is a Nellie Stevens tree, and I trimmed it up as a topiary, so I took all the bottom limbs off, and you can see down here where all these were cut. Do you see this little guy there? Can you see it? He mixes in really well. Again, you have to keep these little suckers trimmed off here. If you get them when they're young, they're easy just to pop off. So I have 4 Nellie Stevens in my yard. I have 2 on each end here. These need to be trimmed up, but I'm not going to have time today. I'll do that in a different video. And I'm just seeing little lizards all over the place, or geckos, or whatever you call those things. There's another one going up the tree. Different color, green, the other one was brown. I love this dahlia because it has different colors on one plant. It's more of a coral color, fuchsia. Lots of buds. It's got a little bit of yellow in it. I'll pull out these spent blooms of these daylilies here. They just need to be pulled out. Sometimes they'll just come right out like this one just did. If they're really old, they'll just come right out. This one's not wanting to come. To trim that one. the most part. I planted these daylilies right here because clematis like to have their roots shaded. So I did that on purpose. So keep that in mind whenever you plant a new clematis. And I have it growing up on a 3-way trellis right here. 1, 2, 3. I got this from Garden Supply. It's been sturdy. It handles both of these plants. I have a planter here on a little hook. That I purchased here, a birdhouse. Wine and roses. Weigela. I've heard it say different ways. This blooms in the spring and then sporadically throughout the summer. There's a few little blooms right there. Hummingbirds love this plant. And I have several of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 8 of these.
Come back so good to see you. We do this every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, oh, I just feel so lucky. Oh, oh, still can't believe you love me. I hope it never ends, us being more than friends, yeah. You know I'm here to stay every single day, yeah. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh.
As you can see, this juniper bush is just not happy, so I'm going to get it up out of the ground. I don't want this to spread to anything else that I have in my garden. So instead of fighting it, it's just better to dig it on up. Actually came up pretty easy out of the ground. I'm kind of surprised. Try to get this root up here. You can see, well, I'm not a big fan of fabric. 3 years in the ground and it is not going anywhere. Let's cover all this back up. And we'll plant something that looks beautiful there. You can tell I already pruned this phlox back and this butterfly bush. That phlox there. Get all my stuff. This is actually the second bag for this side garden here. This is the other side of the catmint where I pruned it up in my pots. Trimmed that jazzberry, got it away from this salvia here. We'll give that some water soluble fertilizer and in 2 weeks it'll bounce back. Trim this up. For these trees right here, anything that has real small limbs, just go ahead and remove those. Anything that crosses over, like actually this is crossing over this limb. You can see how this one crosses over that one. You can trim that. This is the wine and roses shrub. You want to prune this after spring, after it blooms, because it blooms on old wood, not new wood. So if I pruned this in the spring, then I'm going to prune all my blooms off. So the blooms are starting to set now. So that's why I went ahead and gave it all a quick trim, and I probably will leave it alone till after it blooms in the spring. I do like the color of the foliage of this reddish, purplish tint up against these Cryptomeria trees. Now we're going to prune this, or deadhead, this butterfly bush. So I hope you guys can see this. This is dead. So we're going to come all the way back to here. Can you see that? Where it branches all the way back and trim it right there. Which just leaves this right here. And then you can see where it branches out here and here. So it'll grow new 2 sets of buds here. So same thing with this. 1, 2, 3. It's about ready to bud here because I didn't get it trimmed fast enough. But I'm going to go all the way back to here and cut there. I'll trim this up when I have a free hand. Same thing with this one. I'll leave that because it's beautiful. But go back here, cut that. Same with this one right here. Cut there. Here. 3 sets. About ready to bud out, but I want to go ahead and get this dead off. So trim there. See, we have some daylilies here with some spent blooms. Just a plain black stalk. So that will never produce any more blooms on this one. It'll create more. So we're gonna go all the way down here to the base of the plant and cut there. Same here. Dead. Cut. And the same all the way around. You can see there's a new bloom about ready to sprout up right there. While you're at it, go ahead and get all the dead out around the plant. Over to this one. So you can clean out some of the dead that's in here while you're doing all your inspection. You can go ahead and just remove all that and cut old limbs off, such as this one right here. That way the plant won't give energy to this little stuff right here. Just go ahead and give that a quick trim. And we'll clean all this up right here off the plant. Okay, got all some of this dead out of here. This is normal, this is not diseased. Every year these junipers will drop some of their needles. In the wintertime, that's normal. This is what that other juniper, the golden juniper, is supposed to look like that I just dug up, so you can tell the difference between healthy and unhealthy. Okay, we have some salvia here that needs to be deadheaded, as well as this one. So instead of spending energy to these dead blooms, you want new blooms to be produced. So I am going to just trim this all the way back and get all of these off like such, so they'll produce new ones. So all this is going to come off. Okay, we got this butterfly bush, lilac butterfly bush, all trimmed up. There's my clippings there. My salvia all trimmed back. I should get another flush of blooms this fall. This magnolia tree is newly planted here and looks happy. Produce a bloom there. Okay, so this is my black-eyed Susan. I have two different varieties climbing on this obelisk here. So I'm trying to get these vines to grow up more around the obelisk instead of on the ground as such. So it was wrapped around this butterfly bush, and here's some vines. As you can see here, that were all intertwined in this bush right here. So I'm just going to try to push it and try to keep it growing around this obelisk here so it'll fill in this area. So just take all the vines that you see and just keep them twisted around the obelisk, or just push them inside. So I have some here as well. I'm going to take this vine and just keep it all pushed up in here. It's hard to do with one hand. You can see that it's trying to grow up this wine and roses bush here. I may just let it. I don't think it'll hurt it. You can see I'm about ready to come out with some new blooms. This is some old blooms here. Spent. So I've got all those vines tucked in. This deadheaded. Oops. And some more. All these spent blooms off here, and all the foliage around it removed. That was old. You can see some of my drip tubing exposed here, just to kind of give you an idea how this tubing was wrapped around this side of the trees. And this drip feeds all these plants. And then I have drip on the other side of these trees as well. This 1/2 inch copper tubing going down both sides of my flower bed. This is Baptisia. It blooms early spring, and then it produces these pods that are just, gives it some extra accent into the garden. I like the color contrast, also compared to the Cryptomeria. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind when you put a bush up against, or in this instance a perennial, up against another tree. You want it to contrast to whatever you have up against it. Different textures, different colors. You can see just this pairing right here has different contrast, definitely slightly variant different colors of green. If it was all the same color, it wouldn't stand out. Love these serendipity alliums. About ready to bloom. And there's another salvia here with a little busy bee on it. So I need to get that one spent bloom off and these as well. Just FYI, these would probably be happier if they had more sun. They don't really get a lot of sun here. So I could probably move them next year where they'd get more sun and produce more blooms. You can see this limb is kind of coming off here, off this one in roses. I could cut that back. And these little spraggly limbs as well, I'll cut those back. Alright, there's the salvia all cut back. Trim those wine and roses bushes up just a little bit on this side. Backing up here. Okay, so this is looking good. This is basil. The bees like these blooms, but in order to keep this growing, you want to deadhead these blooms off your basil if you're going to use it for food. If you're not using it for food and you like the blooms, you could leave it, but I like to cut mine to make, what do I make? Oh, I like to use my basil for a pesto in my pasta. So we're going to get these cut. Just come all the way back to where it meets here. You can see that, and trim that off. Again, this one here, all the way back to here. This will create new growth. And they say that if you leave those blooms on there that it tastes tough. I don't know if that's true. Just give it a quick little trim here. Like so. And these David Austin roses, this bloom's already spent. I don't want to cut that bloom off, so I'm just going to take this tip of the head of it off there. And this one's completely gone, so I'll go back to a set of leaves right here. And I thought we were done with these Japanese beetles, but I guess we're not. If I see one or two, I just squish it. Japanese beetles comes from grubs in the ground. If you ever seen those white little worms whenever you dig into the ground, that's what a grub is, and they hatch. And when they hatch, they produce these beetles, but I do believe these beetles come from everywhere around you if the ground's not treated. So in the spring, we treat for the grubs that are in the ground. Hopefully will give us less beetles. But if your neighbors don't treat for the same thing, then you might struggle with it also. I'll show you this beautiful David Austin Charles Darwin rose. For me, they're peachy here. They're supposed to be yellow. I would love to have a yellow rose though. And then you could see some of my lavender in the backdrop there. A fountain. hope this video was helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed all my blooms in my backyard, and I'll see you in the next video.